All right, the Emily Kaplan. On paper, you have the dopest life ever. I think you had definitely my dream, and a lot of my friends, like, you're living a dream on paper. Again, of course, I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, but right now you work at ESPN, right?
I do.
Okay, and you're an NHL beat writer?
Yeah, I am a national NHL reporter, which is so redundant.
Yeah,
I get a new title.
I thought there was a typo when I read that. National NHL. So talk about, what do you do?
Yeah. So basically, I got hired by this job in 2017.
Yeah.
And I cover the NHL. I live in Chicago, which is a great place to live if you cover hockey. Typically, I travel a lot. This has been a little bit of a weird spring for me. But I keep tabs on the league, and I report on it for ESPN. And we're not a rights holder, so obviously it's not on TV all the time. A lot of my focus goes on ESPN.com. What I like to do is cover a lot of the stuff off the ice, the personalities of the guys, trends, weird things that they do. Like, one of my favorite stories I ever wrote was NHL players have big butts and they have a hard time finding jeans that fit.
I read that story.
Was just so relatable for so many people. Dressing room anxiety is real. So yeah, that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm used to working at home. I don't go to Bristol too often. So yeah, that's my life.
And so are you a hockey fan, or were you a hockey fan going into, what's your, how would you rank your sports loves?
Yeah. So I was covering the NFL before this, and it's funny because they actually at ESPN brought me out for an NFL interview. And apparently in the interview, I mentioned hockey a lot of times, too many times, because the truth is I grew up a huge hockey fan. Okay. I'm a middle child. I have two sisters, and I'm middle child complex. And I always thought my dad hated me because, I don't know, are you an only child? Middle child? I thought my dad hated me.
Yeah.
So to get closer to him, he and I would watch New York Rangers games, and that's how we bonded growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love hockey. It was the one sport that I really stayed true to, really stayed a fan of. And so ESPN called me a couple of weeks or maybe even months after that interview, and they're like, we don't have an NFL job that we think you would take or is a good fit for you, but what we really need is a national NHL reporter. And it's a little bit different than what you've been doing, but if you want to try it, we think you'd be really good at it.
Yeah, it's so funny how childhood really, really does affect everybody's future. The only TV my dad allowed me to watch growing up had to be either the news or sports.
Nice.
So that, I would watch every sport, curling, any chance I could watch TV.
Cornhole.
Right, exactly. So whatever was on TV that had to do with the sport, that was my justification. And so that's where my love for sports came in.
That's awesome.
That's super funny. So you've been at ESPN for a few years now. Obviously, we met each other in college at Penn State. The reason why I went to Penn State, the reason why I applied to Penn State was because I saw that they had a really, really close relationship with ESPN. So can we that's why. I started as a journalism major.
Because you're from California, right? There's not many Cali kids at Penn State.
There's not, but we all don't call us Cali kids. Also, don't disrespect us that.
Okay, sorry. That's we call it shy. It's shy town. I'm no one calls it that. So I feel you. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's funny because we were
like that.
No, we were always called the Cali kids, and it's nobody in California ever calls it California. It's California. Yeah.
You're exposing yourself for not knowing.
That's how you do. Yeah, but so I started out as a comm major. It was my dream to be on ESPN, and then I had my first internship finally with our local news. And it was a really, really fun, exciting job. But the anchor that I interned for used to be on ESPN, Larry Beal. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or met him.
Yeah. I've never met him, but I know the name.
Yeah, really, really down to earth, nice guy, really great mentor. But he basically was like, Ox, you seem really, really money driven. I don't know if this is the career path that you want to go down. So that kind of nixed my dream there. But what brought you to what brought you to Penn State, and what was your game plan coming up? Was journalism always the dream?
Yeah, it's funny when you said like what we do as kids, our experiences as kids really shaped us. Not to get too psychological here, but I really had middle child complex. Like I really thought my dad hated me.
Oh
and
my
my dad was a sports journalist. Yeah, I know. I pay a lot of money for therapy for this. So my dad worked for the New York Daily News growing up, and he was a Sunday sports editor. So he was never home. Like he would work really late hours. He'd commute to the city. And I think inherently I kind of wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
So from like a super young age, I think I was 6 or 7, I was like, I'm going to be a sports reporter. Like that's what I decided I wanted to do. And writing was always came kind of easy to me. And then when it came time to pick colleges, I grew up in New Jersey and I just applied to big state schools. I was like, I need big, that's what I want. And they were all pretty similar. It was like Indiana, Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Maryland. And Penn State at the time was the only one with a sports journalism major specifically. And I was so driven for this one goal that's why I picked Penn State.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. I looked up sports journalism, I remember, and the first one that came up was Penn State. How did your progression go? Because it looks like you were also interning at some newspapers at the time. Like, kind of talk about how Penn State helped you.
Yeah. So like right when I got there, I was like, I'm going to be on the school paper. That's what I'm going to do. And I tried out to the point where like I was so focused on that. I played field hockey in high school and I really wanted to play club field hockey at college. And like the paper is like, no, you can't be in the sports department and play a club sport, which is bullshit. Sorry, can I curse?
Wait, so of course you can curse. Wait, so what was the justification?
I don't think there was. Like, I think I could have done it. But, I was like a 17-year-old, 18-year-old coming to campus being like, I just want this one goal. Right. So, yeah, I was super focused on the school paper. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I always say we went to Penn State at a very interesting time.
Craziest time.
And the Sandusky kind of broke out, which is crazy because that was just a whole different experience of reporting and learning a lot. So I actually had a gig with the Associated Press because they paid me, the AP. And like when I signed up to do it, it was literally to like help out at football games and get quotes. Sometimes I'd get to write the gamers for women's basketball, which was like the 300-word blurb that appears in the paper. It was like 6 minutes I got paid for it. And then all of a sudden, like Sandusky happened and my jobs were go to the courthouse, stake out Joe Paterno's house, like try to find us these court records. So that was, as twisted as it is, a really good experience, being around all these other hired journalists and kind of learning on the spot. Like we were going way ahead for whatever was in our textbooks at the time. And I also got paid for it. Because like you said, you usually don't get paid in journalism. So that was really neat. Like I was able to pay off my student loans pretty quickly. Because I kind of big bank during that.
Yeah. That's insane to think. I didn't think about that. That's crazy. You were balling. That's why I always liked you. You were always killing it.
I had a hustle. So
how did you feel? Because I felt like there was a lot of sensationalism as all there is with sport, with news. I mean, but now you've worked alongside some of these people now or work alongside them now. I mean, how did you feel about some of the sensationalization during that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I remember like watching some CNN news report, or I can't even remember what station it was, but it was like pretty national. And it was someone like standing outside talking about the kids rioting. Like this entire campus is outraged. And I'm like, that's not how we feel. Like, yeah, maybe like 4 kids said that, but this is a pretty big student body. And like, there's a lot of varying opinions. And I remember like promising myself at that moment, if I ever am assigned to do a story like this, like I'll never make those like sweeping generalizations like that. Like I'll try to talk to as many people as possible and bring as much nuance as possible. Cause like, it's so much easier just to go in and being like, students love their football, they're burning news vans. And I'm like, that's not all of us.
Yeah. I remember I got a call from a newspaper. My friend worked for somewhere out in Sacramento and they were like, how are the riots? I'm like, riots? There's like 7 people out here. We had a way bigger riot when Osama bin Laden was assassinated.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I remember that. It was like right around finals week, right?
Yes, it was finals week. Yeah. All of a sudden you hear like USA chants outside of your window.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that pizza? Canyon pizza?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How much has because I listen to a lot of sports like podcasts and there's like a somewhat of a fraternity at ESPN with the people that went to Northwestern, right? And Syracuse, those are like the bigger represented. So what did Penn State like instill in you that kind of makes you different from the Syracuse and the Northwesterns? That was a long question, but
No, that's honestly, I've never really thought about it. To be honest, I think because we're not necessarily known for, like, it's a good communication school and it's journal, like, but if you think of sports journalism specifically, you think of like Hughes or you think of Northwestern.
Yeah.
And I always think that, like, because we're a little edgier, a little grittier, we've kind of got that community. But I don't know, there's just something about Penn Staters, and especially being in sports, like, I come across people all the time, whether it's people in front offices, agents, now it's players, it used to be with football, now there's some hockey players coming up.
Yeah.
And, like, just the second they find out you went to Penn State, like, there's just an immediate understanding and you're good. And I really like that community. Like, I never really understood it until you're in the real world and you understand there is that inherent network, and that's really neat.
So, and my questions jump around, so just stay with me.
We're good.
Because, like, you're young, how did you get to, like, where you are, where it's like, it's an industry run by, like, so a lot older people typically on TV, right? Because they've been busting. Men. Yes. Yeah. They've been busting their butts their entire lives, and they finally got that opportunity, and they're really the only other people that make it that are younger are athletes. So how were you able to, like, you work for Sports Illustrated, which, again, a magazine that we all loved growing up, at least me and my, sports friends. Boston Globe is, like, one of the most well-respected sport. How have you done all this?
Yeah, great question. I don't know. I have no idea. I've been faking it until I make it. I think it was just, like, a really clear sense of this goal that I wanted. And, like, as much as I had fun in college, I really did. Like, I did make some sacrifices. Like, I never really got to have tailgating weekends because I was working football games. And, like, at the time as a college student, like, that was a huge sacrifice, right? Like, that's one of the most fun things.
Yeah. Like, looking back, that was the absolute smart decision. But, like, at the time, it's such a hard sacrifice to make.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Like, going to bed a little earlier on Friday nights, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always remember too, like, when my friends were all coming back from the football games, or I would be done with work finally and text them being like, "Where are you guys? I'm ready to meet up." They're like, "We're napping." Oh, bummer. Gosh. Like, I'm ready to go. But yeah, I just had this clear sense of what I wanted. And so at Penn State, I remember, like, one of my advice to students is always take a post-grad internship. Because a lot of people want jobs right away and they want to get that salary. But in my opinion, it was a way to work for a place where you weren't necessarily qualified to work for yet. And then enter the job market at a different time and get a different experience. So I got internships with the Boston Globe and Sports Illustrated after college, and I was greedy. I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat it too.
Yeah.
So I deferred SI to the fall. So I did Boston Globe over the summer, which was sick.
Yeah.
I lived in Boston, like, at Fenway Park all the time, Pat's training camp, really cool stuff. And then I did Sports Illustrated, and at Sports Illustrated, I started as an intern, then I went to, like, a project employee, and I kept, having to renew these contracts. And they just kept telling me, "You're great, you're doing awesome, but, like, we just don't have a spot for you. We're not going to hire you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then I just kept working hard and going back into their office, and they're like, "You're awesome, but we're just not going to hire you."
Yeah.
And then finally one day they're like, "Okay, we're going to create a job for you." Right. And that's not to say that happens for everyone, but my advice to students is always, like, if the door closes, don't necessarily assume it's closed.
Yep.
Be a respectful pest, keep working.
Yeah.
Being a respectful pest, that's, like, one of my favorite mantras.
Respectful pest. That's definitely one of the best pieces of advice my dad gave me. That's how I ended up at Penn State, actually. I wasn't going to be able to afford it and applied for a scholarship. Ended up getting a letter saying I didn't get the scholarship. But my dad, he just, like, don't give up, so I kept checking in, and I found out one of my teachers in high school forgot to send my letter of recommendation. So yeah. And it just, whatever he said or did, somehow I got a call from, like, the head of the scholarship committee, and they said, "We found an extra one for you." I'm like, whoa, that's how that works. That's amazing.
Awesome. And if you weren't persistent, like, you could have just given your deposit somewhere else and you would have been gone.
Right. 100%. How long did it take you, or were you ever, like, a fangirl of athletes? Like, not fangirl. I didn't mean, like, fangirl, like.
I know exactly what you mean.
Right. Because you can't say fanboy. So, like, were you ever starstruck is a better word. Have you ever been starstruck around athletes, or has that something that you've always been able to be like, they're human beings also?
At first I think it was a little hard. Like, I remember, like, the one time I was really nervous to do an interview in hockey with Alex Ovechkin. The first time I was supposed to interview him. It's a great story, actually. It was, like, my first year on the beat, and I go to DC and they're like, yeah, like we'll arrange some one-on-one time with you and Alex Ovechkin. I remember he like, you know, when you like go to the gym and guys like put all their smelly clothes in like a CVS bag.
Yeah.
And they're like carrying it.
Yeah.
So he like comes out, he just got out of the shower, like his clothes in this like smelly CVS bag.
Yeah.
And he just looks at the PR guy, his name is Sergey, and he's like, is this her? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, follow me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like go with him and we go into like the Caps dressing room and it's like pretty dark and we're just sitting there. And I remember my one advice was given to interview Alex Ovechkin is that he loses his interest and attention span really quickly. So like get your questions out.
Right.
So, you know, I'm talking to him and like, that was when I was nervous. I'm like, I have this interview. My editors know I have this interview and I need to get something out of it. And all of a sudden I'm on my second question and he's just starting to like drift away.
No.
And I'm like, Alex, like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think that was a situation I think I was nervous for. And like, you know, I understand the stature of Alex Ovechkin. Like when everything is said and done, like he's going to be one of the top 2-3 greatest players of all time. So like that was one, but you mentioned it, like seeing them as human beings. And I think that's one of my best skills. And honestly, I think being at Penn State and being around D1 athletes who are like on a national stage, right? Like the football players at our college are like household names to a lot of people, whereas they were just our peers, like the guys who were sitting in class with us, going to parties with us, showing up at our apartments. And so yeah, just like asking them questions where they feel normal, I think is one of my biggest qualities. As stupid as that sounds, I just think a lot of people don't do it and kind of fetishize them and make them feel weird.
Right. Yeah, I think a thing like I've just noticed about your career and this stuff I've noticed is like you've been involved with a bunch of like atypical sports type stories, right? Like you do like the behind the scenes type stuff and it's cool, but I like, why do we still put up like interviews of the athletes that are doing the candid answers? Because like they have to, you know, like the quarterback, right? Oh, got to thank my team. Thanks to the offensive line. It's like a jump that's like rearranged different ways, but it's pretty much the same thing every time. But then whenever any athlete says something honestly, right, they get crucified for it. So I mean, I don't understand that dynamic of the sports. I don't even know what question I just asked you, but
I don't either. I don't know why I like that though, but you're so right though. And like, I don't know, you turn on ESPN and I feel like we can watch these press conferences and it's like, you could plug in any quarterback and it's the same shit, right? Like it's the same thing we hear again, same cliches. I don't know, for whatever reason, I think athletes all kind of decided that's the way they were going to speak and therefore the media treats it like that and it's really transactional. But I find because we get so much of that, anytime you can dig just a little bit deeper and see what they truly mean or what they truly feel or what truly motivates them, like that's why people latch onto it so much because it feels rare.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the coolest things I saw you on was Around the Horn. Again, growing up, like a dream of mine to be on Around the Horn. What was that first time like? And what is that experience like? Like now, because you're going from now reporter to a personality at this point, right?
Yeah. And that was really hard for me, to be honest. And, you know, it's something that I'm still working on because I'm not like totally comfortable with the TV aspect. Like I feel like I have a decent enough personality and I can have these conversations with you because I know you or are people off camera. But then like all of a sudden when you're sitting in that chair, it's just a totally different dynamic. And you have to think in sound bites and you have to think quippy. And you just, for me to translate the natural Emily Kaplan to TV Emily Kaplan, like I want them to be the same. And I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, so they called me. So the first time I was on was May 2019, which is about a year ago. And they probably called me like a month or two before that. They're like, hey, you know, your name has come up. Would you ever be interested in being on the show? I was like, yeah, of course. And they're like, okay, well, you know, in the spring, people's schedules get busy and we sometimes need people. So we'll let you know. It's like, great. I remember they called me. I was covering the NHL playoffs and they're like, what do you think about being on next week? And I was petrified. And you have to be in a certain state. They do it in Boston, DC, New York, Chicago, Miami, LA.
Yeah, the major cities where they have
studios there.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like in Columbus to cover it. I'm like, I'm in Columbus, I can't do it. Even though I know if I like ask my boss, like, hey, can I fly home to Chicago or can I go to New York? Like they wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah.
But I was coming up with any excuse not to because I was too scared.
Yeah.
And then they asked me again. And I remember thinking like, if I say no again, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just have to suck it up and do it at some point.
Yeah.
So I did it, and it was awesome. It was exhilarating. It was fun. And every time after I record, and I've done only about a dozen or 15 episodes at this point, I always like feel great, but I'm like, damn, I wish I was just like a little more natural. So like, you get better with every rep. But it's all about reps. And it's also scary because you don't know, like, if you mess up once, maybe they'll never call you back. Like, I never have like an understanding of where I stand in the, big ecosystem. I think they're trying to groom me that eventually I'll be a regular, but I'm definitely not there yet.
I mean, every time I've watched, I feel like you've gotten a lot of love too. Like, they're not being nice to you, like just letting you win or whatever. But I feel like you get a lot of respect every time you're up there. So that's dope to see.
Thank you. Yeah. I know, it's fun. It's so surreal to me too. That show is so popular. And like, I give so much credit to Tony Reali and the producer, Aaron Solomon. Yeah. They created this, right? Like, this is their baby, and people grew up with it. Like, you'd probably go home after school and watch it. It was routine television for so many people. And the reason they love it is it's so dependable. Like, you know what you're going to get, and it's going to be a fun, entertaining, vibrant watch. Yeah. And so just to be a part of the family, like, feels really great. And then to like, if you have one point that makes Tony laugh, or you feel like you got a couple points, you're like, holy shit, I made it.
I feel like ESPN right now has a really, really lot of great talent right now. Like, a lot of just genuine, you can tell they love sports, right? It's not, because for a while, to me, this is not you saying this, but to me, it was just getting a little stale. It's a little redundant, and then they were trying different things, but like highly questionable, like cracks. I love highly questionable. Poppy like cracks me up.
So
Dan Le Batard is great. Like Bomani Jones, like I listen to his podcast religiously. Mina Kimes is.
I was about to say, Mina is my personal like role model.
Like she's so dorky, and like I love it though for some reason. And then Dominique Fox.
That's who she is,
right. Super, super authentic, and that's what I love about it. Dominic Foxworth is like one of my favorite people right now, up and coming as well. And then Katie Nolan is like slowly winning me over a little bit. She's like hilarious as well. So there's just so much good talent right now on ESPN. It's like this hasn't been like this in a long time. And now adding you too.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't put myself in that category yet of those people that you just mentioned, because they're awesome. But yeah, like to see that, like I feel like that's the next level I could get to. And just to watch them and watch them thrive, and just like what I love most is like, I use that word authentic with Mina. It's like they're themselves. That said, they can still, put up good points and do good reporting, and they're just so comfortable on air. So yeah, I do feel like it's a kind of golden age for those 30 somethings at ESPN who are doing great stuff.
Has there been have you had like any like Mr. Miyagi's in your life, or through ESPN as well? Like people that are kind of like, gamed you up and everything?
Like Miss Miyagi, like a mentor?
Yeah, exactly.
I make sure I got the reference. I think God, I'm totally 90s kid. Yeah, Peter King was a huge mentor to me. He gave me a real big chance at Sports Illustrated. And he, mentored me through college, and that was awesome. And then at ESPN, honestly, there's just so many. Like, I give all the credit to the people at Around the Horn, and like Ramona Shelburne was the one who recommended me and was giving me great advice before I went on. And like everyone Around the Horn, like I'll call before I go on, and they give me tips. My editor, Chris Brown, like ESPN really does feel like a family in that sense. And like, if you're passionate and you want to get better, like people kind of look out for you.
Yeah. I feel like that's like with a lot of things in life too. And that's overall, you just got to be tenacious. What was the word you used earlier? What's the pesky? What's
respectful pest.
Respectful pest.
Kind of a tongue twister.
I like it though. You got to be a pest to get the word down too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I have some questions I wrote down. I typically don't do this, but favorite hockey story.
Like story I've written?
Yeah. No. What's your favorite story hockey line so far that you've? Yeah.
I really like when I came into the league. When I started covering the NHL. When I made my NHL debut, it was the Vegas Golden Knights' first season, and that was just awesome to watch, because it was firstly everyone was just curious about how Vegas was going to go. And I remember, are you a Raiders fan? Do I remember this correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably have a lot of complicated feelings about Las Vegas.
I'll share it. after you're done answering this, but I'll share about my feelings.
Yeah. So everyone was curious how a pro team would do there. And it was hilarious because teams started losing there and everyone's like, what is the Vegas flu? Like, oh my God, they're partying too much. Like, this is the reason.
Like James Harden. Have you seen that stat where James Harden in cities with strip clubs, his stats are way worse? Did you see that?
Wait, really? No, that's amazing. I will find that. It's on Reddit. Yeah. So it pretty much was that the James Harden strip club stat, and everyone's like, "Well, they're party hard." And it was funny because then, like, you got to mid-season, and some teams were like booking hotels off the strip, like downtown or whatever, and they're like, "Guys have Ubers. Like, if they're going to go out, they're going to go out. Like, there's no whatever." But then as the season went on, you realize like this was actually a good team, and it was something special because no expansion team to that point had even had a winning record in any of the four major sports. And then you realize that like this was a craftily curated team. Like every player was picked because of his personality, because he had this motivation, and they all bought in. And then they were the golden misfits, and it was just awesome to see both of those things, like the exterior of what everyone thought they were, and what was inside the team, and then they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, which was just crazy.
Yeah. My favorite part of the Golden Knights was, like, wasn't there something, not controversy, but like the way they did the draft? Like, didn't they change the rule where you can only hold on to like not even all your best players? The way they did the expansion draft, and so it was so like every player had like beef with every team that they were playing. So that was my favorite part about the Golden Knights that year, for sure.
Yeah, every game was a revenge game for someone. All right, now let's hear Vegas. What do you think?
Right. Well, and then just one more thing about hockey. Sharks let me down every year. Like I'm ironically a hockey fan. Like I only watch because people would never expect it. That's the only reason why I follow hockey.
Of course.
The Sharks winning the President's Cup is it President's Cup, right? President's Trophy, when you win the season. Oh, it's such a tease. The Sharks just being good every season and then just collapsing in the playoffs kills me. All right, the Raiders. Oakland Raiders, local fan, obviously born and raised in Oakland, California. I have been through so many terrible seasons with them, and I've stuck by them because that is my team. That's my home team. Now, for them to just leave, say we're leaving, and then they threaten we're going to move to San Antonio to play, and then they decide to play in Oakland an extra year. I mean, just like I feel like an abused spouse. Like they don't care about us, right? And now they're going to go to Vegas, and now we finally got a relatively good head coach. Our team is looking up, and they're going to leave to Vegas. Like, I live in Southern California now, so technically they're closer to me than they were up in the Bay. I could get to Vegas quicker. And
that's interesting. Yeah.
In all retrospect, though, I probably will be going to Vegas to see some Raider games, if we're being honest.
Yeah. It's just like a different sporting experience. Like I'll say this for hockey, especially because that arena is right on the strip. Like you can walk from the Cosmo Hotel to the arena. But yeah, just that itself, it's just an experience. You go, there's all the visiting fans. That arena, that stadium looks crazy. It looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, it looks crazy. All right, let's see. So do you still play field hockey, like pick up on the side? Not now, but
I did when I lived in New York. I live in Chicago now in the Chi.
Okay.
I won't say that. And there's just field hockey is just not that popular here, so no.
Okay, so who is you and four of the people you'd pick to be on your field hockey team that you with either ESPN or SI?
Oh, question. Maybe should I pick ice hockey? I think that might be.
Let's do ice hockey. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd pick Linda Cohn because she was a goalie.
Okay.
We got to get a goalie.
Yeah.
She's in. Buccigross, I bet he can play pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'll pick Barry Milrose as our coach.
Oh, that's a good pick. That was a sneak. Yeah. Okay, that was a good one.
And then I just like to see Peter King on ice skates. Like I don't know if he's good, but like I just think for entertainment value, I would like to bring him in as well.
Okay, so speaking of ice skates, how are hockey players practicing right now with the social distancing and everything? I mean, did you write a story or did you tweet about something about how hockey players are practicing?
Yeah, so this morning, actually, they just came out with new guidelines saying they're going to try to open up team facilities and let players skate like maximum of 6 guys on the ice. Like it's very, very limited. But what's crazy is, hockey is so unique that you need the ice to stay in shape. Right. Like I wrote a story about how all these guys are buying rollerblades because it was like the closest thing they could get the skating motion. And the only guys with access to ice for so long were the guys who went back to Sweden, because in Sweden there was no broad lockdown law, so they could get into the rink.
Yeah, Sweden's a wild place right now.
Yeah, I know. I can talk about Sweden a lot.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this job is I've made friends. I have a lot of Finnish friends. I have Swedish friends, some Russian. Anyway, so here in the U.S., especially in Canada, as things have started to loosen over the last couple of weeks, like some community ice rinks were open, and the NHL's like frowning upon it. Guys, don't go there. It'll give you a competitive advantage. Plus, you can get sick. But some guys are doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So now they can regulate it. Starting hopefully the first week of June, in their quest to somehow figure out how to award a Stanley Cup this summer.
Yeah. Which major sport, do you think will come back first?
It's a tough question. I think the NHL, like I go back and forth every day. I'm like, yep, it's happening today. And then tomorrow I hear something else. Like there's no way they can pull it off. But I do think that the NHL and NBA can figure it out, just because they were so close to the end of their season, that there's such a desperation just to finish it. Yeah. And, they now have plans, the NBA going to Disney World, which is crazy. And the NHL going to 2 or 4 hub cities.
Yeah.
MLB, I think, should come back first. That said, like the union and the league just seems way too far apart, and they've got to start from scratch because they haven't even began their season. So it just seems really contentious for them.
Yeah. I would love, and they're obviously not going to do this because I guess they can't maximize the money from this, but like a March Madness and NBA where they just let every team just do like a March Madness style, you know what I'm saying? Single elimination.
Right.
Because that's the only, like at this point, Kevin Durant could even play. Like he's kind of healthy. We got Steph and Clay coming back too. Like,
no, it's weird because it's almost like a new season, right?
Right.
Like there's all these different variables that wouldn't have been there.
Right. How has COVID-19 affected sports journalists?
It's a good question. Honestly, some of it's been really nice in the sense that I've had, firstly, like I don't travel anywhere, but I call people and I text people and they have nothing to do, so they call me back. So like sports relation building has been great.
Yeah.
I've gotten more interviews with people I didn't think I could get interviews with in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But there is something about the face-to-face interview, being able to do it in person, kind of have those nuances and not on the phone that I do miss. Like I'm working on a really, really big story right now. It's he's not a hockey player. It's a professional athlete who's coming out as gay. And normally for the story, like I would spend so much time with this athlete, right? And like I'd really get to know the story. And we did all the interviews via Zoom, which is really weird.
Right. He's like, this man is like pouring his life out to you on
exactly.
And also like a lot of humor gets lost also on,
yes.
Yeah.
Would agree. And he's British too. So he's got that like sly sense of humor that like, I think I could probably pick up a little bit better in person, but like via Zoom, it's a little hard. Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. Favorite athlete that you've interviewed?
It's a good question. I grew up such a big Ranger. Like when you asked me about being starstruck, like the only other person that I was like a little like giddy to talk to was Henrik Lundqvist. Because I grew up such a big Rangers fan, and he's just like known for being Mr. Perfect. Like he's so fashionable, his hair is so perfect, and like he's so polished when he speaks. So like that was really cool for me. I interviewed Wayne Gretzky this year, which was pretty sick.
Yeah, that's Jordan level.
Pretty good. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I looked at this stat I found out earlier this year. I've been telling everyone because I think it's wild. When he retired from NHL in 1999, he held or shared 61 NHL records. 20 years passed. He still has 60 of them.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
He's the goat of all goats.
I have so many sports debates now I just want to have conversations with you about. All right. How much of ESPN is real versus like a show? Like, I don't want to throw in your colleagues under the bus, but Max Kellerman kills me. Like, how much of it is genuine? You know what I'm saying? Besides the people I named earlier that I love.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I do think for the most part, like what you see on camera is usually what you'll see behind the scenes. Like if you tend to gravitate towards someone on air and you're like, they seem so funny and chill, like they are really funny and chill. And there's some people on air, you're like, they seem like they're forcing it. And it's really, they kind of might be a dick, or, you know, he might just be unnatural. Like Stephen A, like, he's like kind of not like I don't want to say punchline on campus, but like everything's a good joke. It's like this, you know, because like Stephen A runs everything. So like I was recording my podcast the other day. Like this was hilarious. So now we have to do things remotely. And so like I have to call into the system, and everyone's doing, you know, the radio shows remotely. And my line was being used. And apparently Stephen A used the same line I was trying to use that morning. And he just left his TV on. And so it was like, he wasn't even using the line. It was just like on at his house and the TV was on. And I'm like, he's listening to himself, isn't it? Like, he's just like watching repeats of himself. I think he's authentic though. Like I know he's putting on a show, but like, I really do think he's that outrageous.
Oh, he's amazing. His ability to have all that emotion and still like make sense. Mm-hmm. He like, he's mastered that. It would be great if they could bring back Stephen A and what's the guy's name?
Skipper.
Huh?
Skip Bayless, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. They if they just had like a Fox versus ESPN debate, like just, you know, for charity, like that would be amazing. What did you have a validating moment in your career where you're like, oh, I can do this versus this is just a dream? Or what helped you just be really confident with your career?
You know, like, I think it's small moments. Like, I don't know if there's one big one, but like, just as an example, when I did this story, and it's going to come out in the first 2 weeks of June, with the athlete who's going to come out, and, you know, I didn't know him before this at all. And like I said, we did these interviews for Zoom. And at the end of it, he was like, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, before we had our first call, like 10 minutes before, like I was thinking of just flaking and like not showing up because like I didn't want to do it. But you're really easy to talk to. And I felt like you really understood my story, and you're really, you know, I knew you were going to take care of it. Like when I get compliments like that, it gives me so much confidence, because that's really what I am, right? Like I'm just kind of the gatekeeper to take their stories and bring it to a different audience and you know, put in the format of our website or, you know, our shows or whatever it is. So I think those moments are ones where I'm like, you know what, I can do this. Like and those are the ones too, where I feel like, okay, what I'm doing isn't super trivial. Like it actually matters because I'm, you know, sharing people's stories.
Yeah. That's awesome. That validation, or that just, that's got to be a great feeling. Yeah. All right. So what has been like an experience where it was kind of like a failure, but turned into a really big positive? I'm really big on like turning losses into learning opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And most of my life, I've had a goal. I have not hit that goal. And then like 10 other doors open up that I never expected. So have you had like a tough loss that kind of turned into a really big positive for you?
That's such a good question. Like, and you know what? I don't know if it's happened yet. To be honest, like my career, not that it's been charmed so far, but it's been a pretty nice trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And like, not that I'm fearful of that moment, but I'm almost looking forward to it, because like I do think that would, you know, help me grow more. Like I just can't think of any like really good example for you, which probably makes me sound really bratty.
No. Like it's if my life is going too good, because I've had so many ups and downs, I get nervous because I'm like, that down's going to come at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not bratty at all. I completely understand that. And that's great that you have the perspective, and maybe you'll just be aware, or at least a little bit more prepared if you get blindsided, not when, if.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like there probably has been those. And like, to be honest, there's been a couple moments, like being a female in this industry, where, you know, someone says something to me and it just derails me, where I'm like, he's only saying that to me because I'm a woman, or like, you know, whatever that may be. And like, those are kind of smaller setbacks, but I feel like I always try to keep everything in perspective of saying like, that person doesn't define me, or that comment isn't who I am.
Yeah.
And those are things that I've kind of had to get past, but it's really, I'm sure the good karma is gonna, you know, catch up eventually, but it's been pretty nice so far.
All right. Dream interview.
it always used to. So like in hockey, my answer was always Tim Thomas because I found him fascinating. He was the guy, he was the original guy not to go to the White House because he was other side of government. He didn't want to go to Obama's White House, but like he just disappeared off the face of the earth, and everyone said he was like in a bunker in Idaho. And I was really curious about like what his life was like, but he actually reemerged as devastating. This was like a really good example to me of not assuming things about other people because we all kind of made jokes about him saying he was crazy. And it turns out he had incredible head injuries towards the end of his career. And had just lost so much cognitive function, was really, really struggling with depression and all of these things. And I'm like, shit, like he shouldn't have been a punchline for this long. So you know what, like to this day, I think if I could sit down with Tim Thomas and like find out exactly what has gone on in his career, like that would be fascinating.
That would be such a dope and relevant story. I mean, with the CTE conversation and everything. That's amazing. So I usually ask, like, what would you tell a younger version of yourself, but you already super young. So I'll say this. What advice would you give the young people like in high school that want to be a sports broadcast journalist?
Ask a ton of questions. And like, this is what I say to high school and college students is like, it's the one time in your life where like, you can just call someone and be like, I want to learn about your job. Just tell me about your job. And it's socially acceptable to do that. And so really make sure that this is what you want to do and be passionate about it. And then it's all about getting reps. So, find your local newspaper, your local radio station, and feel like if you can freelance for them and just get that experience young, like that's the best thing you can do, because then you're also finding out like, do I want to do this? Am I passionate about it? Do I want to keep doing it? Or do I want to go and do a different career? Not that I would discourage anyone from doing this. I just, like you said, there's not a lot of money in it. It's totally a grind. There's a lot of sacrifices. And, so many people just kind of walk into it and thinking it's going to be easy, and it's really not.
Yeah, for sure. Emily, I really, really appreciate your time. I hope you stay safe. I'm telling you, like when I see you on TV though, that's super inspirational to me to keep on working harder. So I appreciate like how hard you've been working, because it inspires me. So thank you for that.
Sweet. I just have to say, it was just so nice to hear your voice and see you. And like, we haven't talked in, I guess, 7 years on the math. And like, there's something so comforting. Like, I don't even remember how we knew each other, but we were friends in college somehow. And I'm like, he's exactly the same and he's authentic to himself. And like, that's just so cool.
Yeah. Was it
maybe a more mature version of yourself?
Thank you. I have a little bit more facial hair now. Wait, who was it Emily that introduced us? Who has the best fan base? What city has the best fan base? What city has the craziest fan base? And what city deserves to have a winning sports team?
Okay. Honestly, I think the crazies are Philly.
Okay.
I really do. Like in college, I interned for the Philly Inquirer.
Yeah.
And like I never got nastier comments in my articles than when I worked in Philly. Like they were rude.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're passionate, but they're a lot.
Yeah. The video of that guy catching the baby from the burning building and saying, "I got hands better than Nelson Aguilar." Like their ability to be completely petty to their sports teams is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my pick. And then who deserves? Probably Cleveland. Like they deserve it.
Why?
It's bad. It's Cleveland.
I hated that LeBron James brought a championship to. No, they do not deserve it.
Yeah, football though, that's different.
Okay,
football
all right. The Browns do it to themselves.
Honestly,
yeah.
So many of the Canadian fan bases really impress me. Like Winnipeg cracks me up because they're like the butt of all jokes of the NHL. Like, it's a joke that Winnipeg doesn't have an airport
because of the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they're just so passionate. They stay behind the team. It's a really cool atmosphere when you go to that arena. Like it feels like almost like a college game day.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Yeah. All right. So tell me a hockey game I need to go to if next season. What stadium should I try to go? Because with this quarantine, I'm making a resolution to travel a lot more. So for sporting events and whatever.
Dude, this is what you should do. If you can get a cheap ticket, Battle of Alberta. Okay. Edmonton Oilers versus Calgary Flames. I would go in Calgary because Calgary is a really cool city. It's like kind of Western theme. Like they think they're Texas. Their arena's crazy. It's the Saddle Dome. And those teams hate each other. They want to rip each other's guts out. Like they had to send like the head of department of player safety to their game last year because they knew some shit was going to go down.
Oh my God, I love that. Wait, okay. And then I'm sorry. I know I said I was going to wrap this up. What's the deal with the squids?
Oh, the octopus?
Yeah, what is that?
So hockey just weird traditions. And so in Detroit, they threw octopus on the ice. One of my favorite stories I did in Nashville, there's this guy, Catfish Jake, who throws the catfish on the ice.
Yeah.
Like when they were making the final. His name is Catfish Jake, and I went to the catfish store with him to buy it. Then I watched him literally stuff it into his jeans. It was nasty outside the arena. Go through security, get patted down, and then throw it onto the ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Okay, so that's my question: is how do you get the octopus in the stadium? Do all these fans just bring it in their backpack or just stuff them? That's so gross.
And like, think of it too, especially this one in Nashville. Like, it was June or May. Like, it's hot out.
Ew.
Like, it was not refrigerated.
So the hat tricks, people bring hats to throw on the rink?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then they usually donate it to like a children's hospital or something after. It's nice. Yeah.
Hockey is, okay. Hockey fans are, I've always said hockey fans are the best fans in sports to me.
Yeah. It's something about it. There's a really good live game experience. Like, it's the best live sport to watch.
Yeah.
Like, football's a TV sport. Like, hockey's an in-game sport.
For sure. Great. All right. So, Emily, thank you so much. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep going.
Oh, man, I appreciate you.
Do you have anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
No. The Ox Turner podcast.
Let's do it.
I had the best time. He's the best host. And this kid's going places. He's a man now. You were excited for you.
Thank you.